Just talk like a normal human being. How difficult is it? You would not believe how many times I talk to students. They say, I need to improve my English. I need to improve my pronunciation. They say my level isn't high enough. They say all these words and then they call it fluency, right? They say that their English isn't fluent and they need to be more fluent in English. It is complete crap. So many people come and they say, Chris, help me with my English. And you know what? They already have good English. It's just that they've worked with some kind of teacher or coach. Those are the worst. When somebody calls themselves a language coach, you should just run very fast in the opposite direction. You know, they come to me and they say that somebody told them their pronunciation isn't good enough, their grammar isn't good enough, they don't know enough words. It's complete crap, okay? It's not true at all. They come to me and they say, like, Chris, can you help me with this? Please help me. Because, I mean, they know that I'm pretty good at this thing, right? I've been doing it for 15 years. And, you know, I have all kinds of hundreds and hundreds of testimonials, worked with a lot of different people, and I'm going to give it to them straight, right? I just tell them what it really is. And I hate it when they say that, because a lot of times what it is that the coach that they worked with, the person, the teacher that they worked with, just told them to say a bunch of stuff that nobody really says. It's terrible. They talk like a robot. They talk like a book. You know, they use Duolingo. They talk like a flying owl, like a cartoon character. You know, they don't talk like a human. And so that's like the biggest thing that I can help them with, is just to have them talk like a real human being, like a real person who actually speaks that language. In this case, English. I mean, it's just crazy how many students come to me with this problem. They say it's something else, right? They say that it's fluency or it's pronunciation, but actually what's happening is they worked with some kinds of teachers who just like read some exercises from a book. They're like, okay, give me an example of present simple. Give me an example of past perfect. It's so annoying. Nobody who's a native speaker even thinks about those words. They never say those words. I mean, I live in the United States right here. Like, I'm from the United States. I live here. I talk to people like my neighbors and real people here. Nobody ever says that. And about 90% of the population wouldn't even know what that meant. Like, if I went to my neighbor and I was like, give me an example of past perfect, he'd probably tell me to go screw myself. He'd say, what? Like, what are you even talking about? Nobody says that. And so that's really the biggest problem. Like, if you're watching this video because you're learning English and you want to be more fluent, then what that really means is to be more human. It means to talk like a real person, how a real person talks. It means not to speak like a robot, like a cartoon character on an app, not to speak like a book. You know, you don't have to have perfect grammar. You need to just want to do something in your life. You want to get something done. You want to take action, and you just need to speak in order to do that, right? Like, if you go to a restaurant, you want food. They don't care if you speak with mistakes, right? They don't care if you say the word in a weird way. That's fine. There's a lot of weird people around here. People speak in different ways anyways, right? Like, people in different parts of the country, they speak differently. A lot of times when someone hears you speaking differently, they don't even think that you're from a different country. They just think that you're from a different state, or maybe like another country that's nearby that still speaks English. A lot of times when I'm with my foreign friends and they go somewhere and they speak with an accent, the person who is at the restaurant or wherever we're at, the person doesn't think that they're from a country that doesn't speak English. They start to say, oh, are you from Canada? Because they just think, oh, this person speaks a little different from how a little differently from how we speak here. So probably they're from somewhere else, right? That's what happens all the time. But most importantly, they still think that they're speaking like a human being. When someone doesn't speak like a human, that's when people give them these strange looks and they act like, I don't understand what you're saying. And then it's just terrible, because then people don't want to continue the conversation. And that's what happens when you do what most of these teachers out here teach you to do, okay? They're trying to get you to learn all of these rules and saying that the rules are more important than anything else. What you really need to do is you need to speak like a human being. Okay, that's what you really need to do. So if you watch this video to learn how to speak more fluently or whatever, whatever reason you're watching videos on the internet to try to improve your language, which let's be honest, that's already kind of weird, right? Like, how are you gonna be better at speaking the language just by watching a video? That doesn't make sense, does it? For whatever reason that you decided to watch this video today, the main thing that you need to know is that you speak like a human, like a real person, when you speak with other real humans. That's it. Like, the world has told students for so long that you need to learn languages from books, that you need to learn languages by watching movies, that you need to learn languages by sitting in a classroom and repeating what someone says in this artificial situation. It's not real, right? Like, when you're in the classroom, you remember from school, or maybe you went to a language school, or maybe you've been in lessons that are like that too. We're gonna pretend that people really talk like this, but they don't, right? That's the teacher-student dynamic. That's not the way normal conversations happen in real life. You know that, I know that, everybody knows that, but for some reason, they think that that's the real way that people learn a language. It's not. That's why there's this thing called immersion, where people go to other countries and they live there. And when you're in the place, you have to learn how to speak to real human beings. Otherwise, you just don't survive. So that's why it works, right? That's the whole reason why, like, when you're a child and you're growing up and you're learning the language, you just don't get what you want if you don't learn how to speak, right? You start by making noises. You're like, like my daughter, she's 1 year old. That's what she does right now, right? And so she's starting to say some words, and she knows that if she says the word and the person understands her, then she's going to get what she wants. Amazing, right? You should take English lessons with my 1 year old daughter, because speaking with a real human being is way more effective than speaking with a teacher or, God forbid, a coach, language coach, who is going to tell you that you have to follow all of these rules in order for you to speak correctly. What does that even mean? What does it even mean to speak correctly? You're speaking to get a result. Maybe that's a result at work. Maybe that's a result with a friendship or a relationship, right? It doesn't matter, because the person just needs to understand you and you need to understand them. And then that needs to move forward to a result. If you get stuck thinking about what's right and not right, correct and not correct within the language itself, people just don't want to interact with you anymore, okay? That's not how real communication works. Nobody is analyzing your speech. It's to move forward and to come to a result. If you want to practice speaking with real people, I have a program, English Every Day is the name of it, where we actually practice speaking with people. Surprise, actually speaking with real people, real conversations, real topics, things that you would actually talk about in real life. That's how you learn a language. If that's what you want, there's a link under the video, but really just stop thinking that you're gonna learn how to speak like a real human and that real humans are gonna wanna speak with you if you're just learning from books and watching videos and, clicking buttons because an owl is flying on the screen and tells you to do that. That's the worst. So yeah, I just wanted to tell you that today, and hopefully you start to speak like a real human. And if you're having trouble with that, just come to where the real humans are already speaking. English Every Day, click the link.
What's up, everybody? Today you've got me, Christopher Huntley, from ChrisAmericoast.com, teaching you about 10 phrases that will make you sound like a native speaker. I know that's what you want. I know that's what you need. I know that's why you're watching me. And today you're going to get that, because I'm going to teach you these 10 phrases. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you something that people who speak like native speakers know, and people who don't speak like native speakers don't know. And that's something really important that you need to know, So let's go. And today we're going to talk about 10 phrases that will make you sound like a native speaker. And the first phrase is one that I already told you in this video. Can you believe that? Did you hear it? Maybe you missed it. At the very beginning of this video, I said, "What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody?" Yeah, that's a special phrase that native speakers like to use. They say, "What's up?" No, it doesn't mean what's up. Up like the opposite of down, and what's down and around. No, what I'm talking about is what's up. It means what's happening, what's new with you, what's going on with you. It doesn't mean how are you, and it doesn't mean how is it going, because when we ask those questions, the answer might be something like good, bad, so, okay. But when somebody asks you what's up, it's what is happening, what is going on, what's new. And so you can say one of two things to answer this funny, silly question that everybody says. And the first way that you can answer it is you can say what is happening with you, what's happening in your life, what's new. So my friend might say, "What's up, Chris?" And I might say, "Not too much, nothing much." That's how a lot of people answer. They say nothing much, not too much. This means there's not a lot of new stuff. And sometimes, even when there is a lot of new stuff, people still say that. English speakers are so weird. Or somebody might say something that actually happened. They might say, "Oh, I just got a new car." But the other way that you can answer this question, when somebody says, "What's up, Chris?" I can just say, "What's up?" And no, it doesn't keep going in a circle like, "What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?" That doesn't happen. Instead, you just say, one, "What's up?" It's like, "Hi." And the other person says, "What's up?" And it's like, "Hi." And that's English for you.
What's up? What's up?
Native speakers like to say "what's up," but another phrase that native speakers like to say is, well, it's not really a phrase, it's just one word that we make from two words. And a lot of people just don't say the two words, they only say one word. And the two words are going to, and the one word is gonna. So a lot of native speakers say gonna, and that's a combination of going to. So I might say, "I'm gonna work. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna see you tomorrow." So why are English speakers so lazy? Two words, going to. It's not so long, right? I mean, it's three syllables, going to. It's two words, going to. And we have to shorten it down into one word, gonna. Why? Write in the comments and let me know why you think native speakers do this. I mean, it's not that much faster or shorter. Are they really just lazy bums? Yeah, probably. But we use this combination of words a lot, and so it actually is faster to say gonna. But you usually hear this word in conversational English. If someone is speaking formally, then they're probably going to say going to. Did you hear it? I just said it. I just said they are probably going to say going to. And that's because I'm explaining something to you as an English teacher to an English learner. And I need to speak clearly. So when I'm trying to speak clearly, I'll say going to. But when I'm talking to a friend or I'm not really thinking about what I'm saying, then I'll probably say gonna.
I'm gonna go.
Now, if you're still watching this video, then you might be thinking, "Chris, everybody knows that. Everybody knows what's up. Everybody knows gonna." And if you didn't know those, well, congratulations, now you do. But if you already did, then you might be sad. Say, "Oh, Chris, you said you're going to teach me how to sound like a native speaker. Come on." Okay, here's another one. Instead of saying "you're welcome," when someone says thank you, you can say "no worries." Now, you might have heard someone say "no problem" before. You can also say that. But when someone says thank you to you, there are a lot of different ways that you can answer. You could say "no worries." You could say "no problem." You could say "you're welcome." That's the standard one. And you could also say some funny things like "forget about it." Okay, the next one, which is number 4 technically on our list, since I said that there was going to be 10, I guess I have to do that, right? I'm not a liar. Number 4 is when you want someone else to decide. You don't want to make the decision, they make the decision. Or they just have to make the decision, and it's their decision to make. Instead of saying "it's your decision" or "you decide," you can say "it's up to you." It's up to you. Geez, why do English phrases use up so many times, right? We said "what's up," and now "it's up to you." And it's not ever about up. Well, "it's up to you" means that it's your choice. It's your decision. You have to decide. And I have a decision that is up to you right now. Because you might have noticed on this channel, we make more videos when more people comment and subscribe. And if you want to see more videos on this channel, go leave a comment and subscribe right now.
It's up to you.
Okay, number 5, when someone asks you how you're doing or how you are, they might say, hey, Chris, how are you? Hey, Chris, how's it going? Instead of just saying something boring like, I'm okay. Instead, you can say something like, I can't complain. To complain means to talk about how something is bad or negative. That's to complain about something. A lot of people out there are complainers. Yes, talking to you, Kevin. But when someone asks how you are, instead of saying something negative or something boring like, okay, you can say, I can't complain. It means it's not so good, but I have nothing bad to say.
Can't complain.
All right, going on to the next one. We keep going, keep going. Instead of saying good job or you did well, does anybody really say it like that? Well, instead of saying that stuff, when somebody does a good job, you can say, you nailed it. And that means they did a good job. Not only does it mean they did a good job, it means they did it perfectly well or exactly how they should have done it. So maybe after this video, some of you will go to the comments and write, Chris, you nailed that video. And my heart will start to feel so warm and a tear will fall down from my eye, down my cheek. And I'll think, oh, I nailed that video. But enough of those emotions. Let's go to the next word.
You nailed it.
This one is something that I say all the time. When you want to tell someone that you will join them, you will do the thing that you're asking them to do, you can say, I'm in. So my friend might say, hey, Chris, do you want to go to the movies later? And I can say, I'm in. Or they might say, hey, Chris, we're planning a picnic this weekend. Do you want to come? And I can say, yeah, I'm in. And it means I will do it. I will go. I will participate. I will join you. So I have a question for you now. Will you join me when I publish another video next week? Because, hey, if you like this one, you're going to like the next one too. So let me know if you are in by leaving a comment under this video.
I'm in.
Okay, I think we're on the 8th phrase, but who's counting? This one is when you want to tell someone to wait. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe they need to slow down, but you're telling them, wait. But you don't want to speak boring English. You want to speak native speaker English. Woohoo! So you don't say wait, you say hang on. Yeah, you can say hang on. And then you can also say something like hang on a minute, hang on a second. And it tells them how long they need to wait. In English, we use the word hang a lot to talk about waiting or not doing something or staying in one place. Like if somebody's hanging around your house, it means that they're just kind of standing there and not going anywhere. Maybe they are waiting. Maybe you should be careful because there's somebody hanging around outside your house. But wait, before you leave this video, hang on. We have 2 more phrases that you need to know to speak like a native speaker. And I'm going to tell you something that you absolutely need to know that all the people who sound like native speakers already know, and you need to know to speak like a native speaker. So let's go.
Hang on.
Okay, the next one, you might have heard it before or maybe not, but when you need to leave somewhere, when it's time for the end of the party and it's time for you to go home, you can say, I gotta go. You might say, look at the time. Oh, I gotta go. And that means you need to leave. Now, I am teaching you how to speak like a native speaker, so you do need to know that I gotta go has another meaning too. It can mean when you really, really, really need to go to the bathroom. You need to go to the toilet. You need to do your dirty business in there. So you might say, oh, I really gotta go.
I gotta go.
And that brings us to the 10th phrase of the day, which talks about when something is very easy. It's so easy, you don't need to worry about it. It's not difficult at all. It's a piece of cake. Maybe you've heard this phrase before, but when someone says that something is a piece of cake, like making these videos is a piece of cake, then it means that it's very easy for them. Maybe they don't have to try very hard, or maybe it's just not difficult for them, and maybe other people think it's difficult, but for them, it's not difficult. They say, it's a piece of cake. Now, I don't know about you. I don't bake a lot of cakes. And if I tried to bake a cake, making a piece of cake probably would not be easy for me to do. I mean, I think I can do it, but you probably wouldn't want to eat it. So for me, baking a cake is not a piece of cake. And that's the 10th phrase to sound like a native speaker. And now the most important part of the video, something that you need to know if you truly want to sound like a native speaker. A lot of times on our live calls, when students get to ask me questions, we do this every day, every week. We speak face to face with English learners who want to get speaking practice. It's the most important and fastest way for you to learn how to speak English. And if you go to chrisamericos.com, you can see our English Everyday program where we practice speaking with you face to face every single day. I know you can't believe it, but it's true, and you have to go check it out. And I'm telling you that because a lot of the students there ask me this question, and I'm going to share this with you right now. They say, Chris, how can I sound like a native speaker? And the first thing that you have to think about when you ask this question is, which native speaker? Because there are native speakers in Australia who sound different from native speakers in the UK, who sound different from native speakers in the US, who sound different from native speakers of other English-speaking countries. They all sound different. And if you have an American accent and you go to the UK, then they're going to say, you have a foreign accent. You do not sound like the local people, the natives of that place. And if you have a British accent and you come to the United States, same thing. They're going to tell you, you have an accent and you don't sound like the people from around here. So if you really want to sound like a native speaker, the first thing you need to do is decide what kind of native speaker you want to sound like. Too many people try to learn English and speak like a native speaker without thinking about the fact that there are a lot of different native accents. And that's why you need to focus on the one that's going to be the most important for you. If you're moving to Australia, it's better for you to learn the Australian accent. And if you're going to move to the United States, learn the US accent, the American accent. And if you're going to move to the UK, don't learn the Australian accent or the American accent, learn the British accent. Too many times, students just don't have clear goals. They say native speaker, and they don't really think about what that means. So if you really want to sound like a native, do those two things. First of all, decide which type of native speaker you want to sound like. And the second thing is go to chrisamericos.com and practice speaking English with professional native teachers every single day. It's guaranteed to improve your English in 30 days or less. Yes. See you at the next lesson, and I'll see you in the next video. Today we're talking about 10 grammar mistakes that even advanced learners of English make. And the honest truth is that sometimes native speakers make these mistakes too. Seriously, a lot of people make these mistakes. You're not going to make these mistakes anymore because you're watching this video all the way to the end. So you learn all these mistakes and you learn how to say them or write them, use them correctly. Hey everybody, Christopher here from chrisamericos.com, and shout out to everybody in our English Everyday community. I love you guys. And today we're talking about 10 grammar mistakes that even advanced learners of English make. So the first mistake on our list, you might call it a writing mistake. You might call it a spelling mistake. You might call it a punctuation mistake. Whatever you call it, it's still a mistake because there are two different words that are pronounced it's. Yeah, that's right. There's two different words that have the same pronunciation, it's. One has an apostrophe and one does not have an apostrophe. And that apostrophe is very, very important in English because it actually changes the meaning of this word. If we use it's with no apostrophe, then this tells us that it's possessive. It means that we're talking about whose thing this is. Like if we say his or her, its is a word like this. So as a funny example, we can say, the dog drove to our house in its car. This means that the dog drove the car that belongs to the dog, right? The dog has its own car, its own car, without an apostrophe. Now, if we use its with an apostrophe, this tells us that this is two words that we put together into one. It means it is. So we might say, it's nice to meet you. Or we might say, it's a beautiful day today. For both of those examples, we use it's with an apostrophe because we're saying two words, it is. When there's no apostrophe, it's just one word. It tells us whose thing it is. Lots of people make that mistake. Even native speakers, when they're writing, make that mistake all the time. But now, you're not going to make that mistake, right? And if you really want to get good at English, like really, really good, like native good, then you need to practice more. So click the link under this video to go over to English Every Day and practice speaking with me and other native teachers. You'll be happy you did. The second mistake that a lot of people make, it's very similar to the first one, but it's a different word. It's the word your or your. And different people in different English-speaking countries pronounce this a little bit differently because of the vowels and the R sound at the end. So it might sound like yo, or it might sound like your. And different places and different parts of the world can say this word a little differently, but it's all the same because it's still your. But again, what about this apostrophe? We might write it with an apostrophe or we might write it without an apostrophe. Aha, but you're very smart and you've already watched the first mistake in this video. And so you understand that the apostrophe probably means that there's two words. And you would be correct because you're with an apostrophe means you are. Like you're the best English learner on the planet. You are. But if we say you're without the apostrophe, then it's just whose thing this is. Like it's your car. So there are two different meanings, but they sound the same. And the only difference is in writing when we write that apostrophe. And I bet that if you go online and you talk to random people on the internet, you will quickly find a person who does not understand that this is a mistake. And that person might be a native English speaker, which will be pretty funny, because then you can teach them the rule. And that brings us to mistake number 3, which is again similar to the last two mistakes, but this time we have 3 words that are pronounced exactly the same, but they have different meanings. And these words are all pronounced there. Yes, we have there and there and there. They all sound the same. Okay, first let's talk about there, which is the opposite of here. Here, there. So that's a location. Whenever we write it like that, it's a location. But it's also used in other phrases like there are or there is. Okay, what about the second one? There. Well, this one is like your and its. It doesn't have an apostrophe. It's about whose thing this is. So we can say it's their car. It means it's the car that belongs to them, right? So that's a different meaning from there, like a location. And then the last one has an apostrophe. So that makes me think, maybe this is more than one word. Maybe it's 2 words together, right? Like they are. Correct. Yes. So if we have an apostrophe, it's 2 words, they are, and they're just put together into one word. And if we don't have the apostrophe, then we're looking at which meaning is it? And they're spelled differently. So one of them is like my, your, his, her, our, their, right? It's whose thing it is. And the other one is more like a location, like I'm here and you are there. And again, I just have to laugh at how many native speakers get this wrong all the time. So you now know the rule and you know what's correct, and you can have fun and go on the internet and find lots of people who make mistakes with this, and you can tell them what the rule is. And it'll be a lot of fun because you've just learned the rule and now you can share it with others. The fourth mistake that so many people make, including a lot of native speakers, which means you will know that this is a mistake, but they might not know. The fourth one is, when do we say fewer and when do we say less? because both of them talk about having a smaller amount of something. So if we say less or if we say fewer, what's the difference? Well, sure, less and few are different words, but is there a rule? Ding, ding, ding. Yes, there is. We use the word less with uncountable nouns, and we use the word fewer with countable nouns. So we might say, he has fewer choices, or she has fewer problems. But if we talk about something like time, which is uncountable, then we have to say less. So we could say, he has less time, or she has less energy. Now, the funny thing about rules is that a lot of times native speakers don't even follow the rules. But here we are learning them and saying this is correct. And people who actually speak the language, who don't care if it's correct or not, they speak differently. And so this is kind of funny, but it's kind of frustrating when you're learning a language too, right? Because you want to be able to speak the right way, the correct way. But what is correct? So it's really important for us to understand that native speakers will mistake less and fewer, and they will make mistakes when they're writing using apostrophes and not using apostrophes. And there are a lot of other mistakes. We still have more mistakes in this video to talk about. But what you need to understand about mistakes is that they're only important if they stop the communication, if they stop you from understanding or from the other person understanding you. So if you are worried about mistakes, the best thing to do is just to get more practice using the language, because you will feel more confident and you will make less mistakes. And when you do make mistakes, you'll know how to handle that situation. And if you need more practice, click the link under this video to practice speaking English with native teachers every day. So now let's talk about the next mistake that a lot of English learners make. Not a lot of native speakers make this mistake because it's related to a very basic rule. And that's the difference between the words me and I. And the reason native speakers don't make mistakes with this is because I is a subject pronoun and me is an object pronoun, and we need to use the correct word to show the correct direction of the sentence. So when there's a verb, the verb goes to the object. The verb is done by the subject, and I is the subject pronoun. So when I do something, I use the word I. I run, I speak, I jump, I walk, I bark like a dog, roof, roof. But when somebody else does the verb, does the action, and that action goes to me, then I have to use the word me, not I. So this is the main difference between these two words, and using them correctly shows the correct direction of the verb in the sentence.
All right, there's no need to bark at me.
The next mistake that we need to talk about is very confusing, and most native speakers don't use it correctly. They don't care about using it correctly, and if they knew how to use it correctly, it probably would not stop them from using it incorrectly. So this rule that we're going to talk about doesn't matter so much, but for someone who's learning English, it might seem like it's very, very important. So what is the difference between the words who and whom?
Whom. Sometimes it's who.
Have you even heard someone use the word whom before? There are some old phrases in English that include the word whom, and in those cases, I would always use the word whom, but only in those special cases, those special sentences with those special phrases, and other situations where I'm thinking about what I'm going to say and not using a standard phrase, I'm not going to say whom. So I believe the word whom is old, that people do not really use it that much anymore. It's antiquated, and so is that word. But if you look at an English textbook, if you look in a dictionary, if you look online, everywhere they're going to tell you that there are rules about when to use who and whom. And I'm going to tell you, just don't use whom. And anyone who's using whom is trying to apply old grammar, old rules, And today, most people do not use that word ever. Now, if you're a literature professor, then you're going to have a different opinion, and you're going to say, here's when you should use it, and here's why people use it. But still, in everyday speech, people don't use it that much. So that's the first rule to think about. Do people actually use it? But when it comes down to grammar behind these two words, well, I've already explained it to you. Because our last mistake, the difference between I and me, it's the same as who and whom. Who is the subject of the sentence, and whom is the object. So using these two different words helps us understand the direction of the verb in the sentence. But usually we can understand the direction of the verb in the sentence based on the sentence structure. And the person who's speaking, the person who's listening, can usually understand the difference between using who as a subject and who as an object. And that's why they don't usually have to say whom. Native speakers also like to put prepositions at the end of the sentence, which breaks all the rules, but they do it all the time. And that's why they might ask a question like, who are you talking to? Instead of asking, to whom are you talking? So is this one a mistake or is it not a mistake? Should we follow these rules if the books and the dictionaries say that we have these rules? Or should we just follow what people actually say in real life because it will make us sound strange to follow a rule that nobody else follows? Write in the comments under this video and let me know your opinion. And let's go to the next mistake. And this one is a mistake that a lot of English learners make. I hear it all the time, mistaking the words since and for when talking about time periods. And so here's the difference. This one's pretty simple and straightforward. You can say since when something happened from a point in time in the past. So we can say, I've been making a video since 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock is the point in time that started this process. So everything started at 12. We can say since 12. But it could also be a negative verb, like I haven't talked to her since 10 o'clock. This means 10 o'clock was the starting point of not talking to her. Now, this is different than talking about the duration or the time period. And for that, we use the word for. We can say, I have been talking with her for 10 minutes. That means the length of time of us talking is 10 minutes. It doesn't tell me the starting point. We can figure that out, but it tells me the amount of time. So you want to use since when you have the point in time, and you want to use for when you have the period of time. Great. Another mistake that I hear a lot from my English learner students and sometimes from the members of our English everyday community is using the word to with modal verbs. But modal verbs are special snowflakes. Oh, after modal verbs, we do not use to in the infinitive. What? What am I talking about? Well, we have a video that tells you about when to use gerunds and infinitives, so you can go to our channel and you can get all the details there. But in short, let me tell you about this. After modal verbs, you can use the infinitive, but you can't use the word to. So with a regular verb like want, that's not a modal verb, you can say something like, I want to go home. I want, and then we have the infinitive, to go home. I want to go home. But with a modal verb, we take to out. So it's I should, which is a modal verb, I should go home. We don't say I should to go home. It's still the infinitive, but we don't say to after modal verbs. So you can find a big list of modal verbs. You can go to the video on our channel about modal verbs, and you can learn more about this. But after modal verbs like can, could, should, will, may, might, all of these kinds of words, after those we don't say to, we just say the infinitive. All right, the number 9 mistake that we're going to be talking about today is when we use the wrong prepositions with verbs. Some verbs have specific prepositions that go with them. For example, the verb to marry someone. We cannot say to marry for someone, or marry to someone, or marry on someone. We don't say any of these things. In English, we just say to marry someone. So here we don't have to use a preposition.
I married him.
But then we have the verb to be married. And you can say to be married to a person. So we can say Maria married John, not married to John. She married him. Maria married John. And now Maria is married to John.
Betty is married to him?
Every time that you learn a new verb, try to learn the prepositions that go with that verb. And finally, we are here at number 10, the mistake that so many people make. Native speakers make it, advanced students make it, beginners make it, everybody makes it. And I don't know why, because it seems so easy, but people keep making this mistake. And this mistake is the rule of double negatives. You cannot have two negatives in the same sentence. So it's a mistake to say, I don't know nothing.
Well, I don't know nothing.
But you will hear people say this in films and TV shows. You'll hear native speakers say it, and it doesn't mean that they're not native speakers, but it does mean that they're breaking a rule. And so it's not technically correct. English is full of these balancing math equations where you have a negative on one side, so you can't have a negative on the other side.
Mister, I don't know nothing.
Because if a person says, I don't know nothing, then they don't know nothing. So this means they do know something, right? And that's confusing because probably they want to say, I don't know anything. I don't know, negative, anything, positive. I don't know anything.
I don't know anything.
This is why it's very important to learn the positive, negative, and question structures of different types of sentences and sentence formation. Again, you can find a video on our channel about that topic, or the best way to improve your English is just to practice speaking it. This will improve your writing, this will improve your reading, it will improve your listening. Speaking is the gateway that improves all the other skills.
Today we're talking about English pronunciation. Maybe you've heard different English speakers say the same words but make different sounds with their mouths. That's strange, right? Why do they do that? Well, in this video, I'm going to explain why they make these different sounds and how you can too, so that you can pronounce the words the way that they're supposed to be pronounced. And it's not just about words, it's also about phrases and whole sentences. But if you know what I'm going to teach you in this video, then you will sound native too. And if you stay until the end of this video, I have 2 challenges for you to do right now using this information. And before we start, remember, if you want to speak fluently, then you need to practice speaking. So practice speaking English every day with professional native teachers like me. Click the link under this video now. Today, we're going to be focusing on the letter T. Sometimes you hear native speakers say cat, and sometimes they say cat. Sometimes they say spot, and sometimes they say spot. Why do they do that? Or maybe you hear English speakers say something really strange, like when they say this word better, instead of saying the T sound, they say
Better.
better.
This one is way better.
This one is better.
I will do better, 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 I promise.
It sounds like a D sound. Why do they do that? Crazy English speakers. So the first thing that you need to know about the letter T and how we pronounce it in English is that the T sound is voiceless. And what that means is we do not vibrate. We do not make any vibration when we say this sound. And that's why we say that it is voiceless. And the second thing that you need to know about the sound T is that it is aspirated. And what that means is that you push some air out of your mouth when you say this sound. So if we hold a piece of paper in front of our mouths and we say T, then we're going to see the paper move. Right now, you can do this. You can put your hand in front of your mouth and you can say T, and you can feel the air hit your hand. So now you know that T, or the T sound, is voiceless. We don't make sound here. And it's aspirated. We push air out of our mouths when we say it. But some people in some places say some things a little differently. So in this video, I'm going to tell you how you can understand that and why they do that. First, we have our regular T sound. And you can hear this sound in words like 10, or today, or tonight, or Tuesday. All of these words use the regular T sound. And that's because we have some special rules about when we aspirate this sound, when we push that air out of our mouths at the end. We do this when the T sound is at the beginning of the word. Like I told you, 10 or today. But we also do this when the T sound is the first sound of the stressed syllable. A syllable is a part of a word. Like my name is Christopher, and there are 3 syllables. Christopher. Christopher. 3 syllables. So if the T sound is at the beginning of the stressed syllable, then it will be aspirated. Like in the word attack, or attention. And then we also aspirate this sound when it comes before a vowel sound. We've got vowels, A, E, I, O, U, and we have consonants like B, C, D, F, G, and many others. And some sounds are vowel sounds, and other sounds are consonant sounds. So we aspirate the T sound when it comes before a vowel sound. But we do not aspirate the T sound after the S sound. So when we have ST, we do not aspirate the T sound. So in words like stop, or start. And even in words like last, the aspiration is much, much less. We also don't aspirate the T sound when it's the last sound of the word. So in words like cat, or that, you can hear the T sound at the end, but we don't blow the air out of our mouths. Sometimes it sounds like we're not even saying any sound at all, just cat. Well, there are a lot of words like this. Bat, hat, pot, lot, forgot, not. And sometimes people call this the stop T, because it sounds like you're stopping the sound instead of sending that air out of your mouth at the end. But you might be saying, Chris, sometimes in your videos, you say that sound at the end of the word. Why? Well, this is where it's also important to understand that in different contexts or situations, or speaking with different types of people, sometimes we say sounds a little differently. So in the situation where a teacher is speaking to students and trying to speak very clearly, then they might pronounce some of the sounds more clearly than they usually would to help students understand. But in a regular conversation, especially American English speakers will use the stop T a lot. Did you hear what I just said? A lot. And that's a stop T. And we also do not aspirate the T sound when it's in an unstressed syllable. For example, Atlantic, like the Atlantic Ocean. So now you know the rules of when to aspirate, when not to, and remember that aspirate means to send some air out of your mouth. And thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned a lot about tea. And oh, you thought we were done? No. We have 2 more types of tea, and you cannot drink either of them. You know, tea. No, not that kind of tea. We're talking about 2 different pronunciations of the letter T. The first one is something that you hear in American English a lot, and we call it the flap T. But you might hear it and think that we're saying a D sound, not a T sound. That's confusing. Yeah. And in some British English accents, there's something called a glottal stop T. And this is where we make a short pause and we don't really say the sound at all. And both of these kinds of T's have very similar rules. So let me give you some examples of words that have a flap T, or that some people might pronounce with a glottal stop T. The first example is
Water.
water. Do you hear how I say it? Because I have an American English accent, and when I say this word, I do not say water, I say water. It almost sounds like a D sound. This is the flap T, water. But really what's happening is we're saying the T sound, but we're not aspirating. We're not blowing air out of our mouths. And you can hear it in other words too, like the word letter, or butter, or party. Yeah, party. Can you imagine you're speaking to an American English speaker and they say, let's go to the party. And you're like, party? No, it's the party. Woo-hoo-hoo, party time. But then you turn to your British English friend and they tell you that they need a glass of, well, your American friend says water and your British friend says water. Your American friend says letter and your British friend says letter. Your American friend says butter and your British friend says butter. Your American friend says party and your British friend says party. Why do they do this? Don't worry, I'm going to tell you the rules. First of all, we can say the flap T or the glottal stop T sound when the T is between two vowel sounds. And remember, we're talking about sounds, not letters. So a T sound between two vowel sounds can have a flap T or glottal stop T sound. Water, letter, better, butter. It also makes this sound when it's between a vowel sound and a dark L sound. What's a dark L? I guess we need another video for that. A regular L sound is like la 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 la, and a dark L sound is like ooh. So you can hear the flap T or the glottal stop T sound in words like little, or bottle, or metal, or fatal. And we also have this sound after an R-controlled vowel. What's an R-controlled vowel? Guess we need another video about that too. An R-controlled vowel is when we have sounds like and or and R. It's basically a vowel connected to an R. So we have the flap T or the glottal stop T sound in these words like artist, and 40, and turtle. Yeah, turtle. You probably thought it was turtle, but no, it's turtle. So now you know a lot of rules to pronounce the letter T. And now it's your turn. Here's a challenge for you to do to see if you can pronounce all of the T sounds correctly. Try to say this phrase. Betty's butter batter splattered on her tattered top. Try again. Betty's butter batter splattered on her tattered top. Did you do it? Did you say it correctly? Do you hear all the different T sounds? Let's try another one. Tina's teeter-totter scattered litter in the gutter. One more time. Tina's teeter-totter scattered litter in the gutter. So remember, I'm American, I have an American English accent, and I use the flap T sound. If you talk to other teachers from other places, they might say it a little differently. And now you know why. Do you want to sound like a native speaker when you speak English? Have you ever noticed how native speakers sound a little different when they speak? They choose different words, they make different sounds, and you watch the videos, you listen to the podcasts, and you try to repeat. But when you try to repeat what they say, you don't exactly sound like a native speaker. Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you about 10 words or phrases that you can use that will make you sound more like a native speaker. These are things that they actually say. And I know that because I'm a native speaker and I walk outside, I see people, and they say these things. So I'm telling you the truth here, straight from the source. And in this video, you're going to learn these 10 phrases and words that native speakers really say so that you can practice them and you can sound more like a native speaker yourself. Let's go. The first phrase that will make you sound like a native speaker is one that maybe you've heard before, but you weren't really sure how to use it. And it's a very common, very familiar situation when you meet someone and you say, "Hi, how are you?" And they say, "I'm fine, thanks, how are you?" And a lot of English learners just say the same things again and again, and they never learn that there are other ways to say these greetings. And how are you is just one very easy, sometimes formal way to greet someone. You could also say,
how's it going?
How's it going? Or
How are you doing?
how are you doing? But probably the most native sounding phrase is what's up.
What's up?
And a lot of people get confused when they hear what's up because it sounds like it's a question. I mean, it is a question. What's up? And the correct answer is not the ceiling or the sky, right? That's a joke answer that you can say. But usually when someone says what's up, you just say nothing. What's up with you? So you just say what's up and then what's up again. That's a greeting. So it's not really a question that someone wants you to answer. It's more just like saying hi. So next time when you're in an informal situation with friends and people who are the same age as you, then you might say, what's up? And that means hi, basically. Now, you don't want to use this when you're speaking in formal situations, not to people who work in the government or your boss or your teacher. Depends on your relationship. But when you use what's up, it's for informal situations. The next phrase is actually a combination of words that are put together and said very quickly. And then now we have a special phrase for this. And a lot of people like to talk about their plans. When you're speaking to native speakers, they might ask you about your plans. Hey, what are you going to do today? What are you going to do tomorrow? And you might be listening to what they're saying and you know what they're trying to ask you, but what are those words that they really said? They said, what are you gonna do tomorrow? What are you gonna? What is gonna? That's not really a word. If you try to look it up in the dictionary, you will not find it because it's not a dictionary word. Gonna is just a combination of going to. And when native speakers speak quickly, they use gonna, and it sounds very fast. And so you can say, what are you going to do today? What are you going to do tomorrow? You can even use it with the verb to go, like,
Where are you gonna go?
where are you going to go? And native speakers use this all the time. So I know you've heard it and you've maybe seen people write it before, but using this phrase will make you sound more like a native speaker. All right, the next situation is a common one, again, where someone says thank you to you, and what do you say back to them? They say thank you, and you say, you're welcome, right? That's what you learned at school. That's what the books taught you. But there are other ways that you can answer too. My favorite is
No problem.
no problem. Or you can also say,
Don't worry about it.
don't worry about it. But there's another phrase that will really make you sound like a native speaker. You can say, no worries.
No worries.
It's a combination of don't worry about it and no problem. So you get both of them together. No worries. Thank you. No worries. Don't worry about it. Forget it. No problem. The next one is when you are talking to someone and you need to make a decision, but you don't want to make a decision. You want the other person to decide. So instead of saying you decide, you can say it's up to you.
It's up to you.
It's up to you. Hey, what do you want to do tonight? Should we go to a restaurant or should we go to a bar? I don't care. It's up to you. So when we tell someone that it is up to them to decide, what that means is that it's their choice. It's their decision. It's their responsibility to decide. They have the power to decide. And right now, I'm going to ask you, who's watching this video, to make a decision. You see, if you like watching videos like this, it's very easy to click the like button, click the subscribe button, and to leave a comment down below, and that will help us put out more and more videos like this. But here's the thing, I cannot subscribe to this channel for you. It's up to you to do it. Now let's go to the next phrase that makes you sound more like a native speaker. When someone asks how you're doing, how are you? You can say, I'm fine. I'm okay, I'm all right, not too bad, right? There's a lot of things that you can say. But one phrase that will make you sound like a native speaker is, I can't complain.
I can't complain, can't complain.
Yeah, when you ask someone, how are you doing? Or how are you? They can answer, I can't complain. And this means that things are okay, so-so, All right. It means they have nothing bad to complain about. So try saying it yourself. Say, I can't complain. And let's be honest, if you're watching this YouTube video right now, then your life is pretty good. So you don't have anything to complain about, right? How are you doing? Can't complain. Okay, let's go to the next phrase. This is in a situation where somebody does something very well. They do a good job. They do it the right way. They get all the questions and answers correct. Instead of saying good job or you did well, you can say you nailed it.
You nailed it.
When somebody nails something, it means they did it exactly right. They did it the right way. They did a good job. So the next time your native speaker friend does something very well, you can say, you nailed it. Or if you come to the meetups with me where I do live calls and answer people's questions live, then you can ask me a question. And when I give you the answer, you can say, thanks, Chris, you nailed it. And then I'll give you a virtual high five. But now let's go to the next situation. And this is a situation that I see all the time. And it happens all the time. And maybe you've been in this situation before too. Somebody is planning an event. Let's say that they're having a party and they're telling you about the party. And then they say, Chris, do you want to come? And I could be boring and not sound like a native speaker. And I could say, yes, I will join you. That's what your English sounds like if you learn from robots. That guy will not be fun at the party. Instead, you want to sound like a native speaker and you want to say, I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in means I'm going to do it. I will join you. I will do it. I will be there. And your friend might even ask you with that question. They might say, we're having a party tomorrow. Are you in? And you can say, yeah, I'm in. Or you could even say, count me in. Great. Now let's move to the next phrase. Sometimes you need people to wait, right? Sometimes people go too fast. Sometimes people leave when you're not finished and you need to say, wait. But is there a better way, a more native way to say this? Well, you could also say, hang on. Hang on means wait. And you can also say, hold on. And you might also hear some people say, hold up. And all of these phrases mean wait. So you might hear a native speaker say,
Can you hang on a second?
can you hang on a second? Can you wait for a second? And let me check real quick. Hang on. Yes, that is a native sounding phrase. All right, let's go to the next word, which is kind of a phrase, but kind of a word. And it's very similar to one that we already talked about today. We talked about gonna, which means going to, but there's another one that we need to talk about, which is gotta, which means got a or got to. Now, this one is a little tricky because we need to understand that there's a phrase have got to, and this means the same as have to. Like if we said, I have got to go, then this means the same as I have to go. But native speakers have shortened this even more. It can't even get any shorter. Instead of saying I have to go or I have got to go, you can just say I gotta go.
I gotta go.
That's right. Native speakers sound like that. They leave out words and they have these special phrases and everyone just understands what they're saying. How does that work? Well, when someone says I gotta go, everyone understands that they're saying I have got to go. They don't say all the words, but the whole idea is there. So the next time you need to leave the party or you need to exit, instead of saying, I must go home now, you should say,
I gotta go. See you later.
I gotta go. See you later. And now we've gotta go to the last phrase that makes you sound like a native speaker. And here I'm gonna give you a bonus. There's actually two. Imagine the situation where somebody says something to you. Maybe it's a compliment or something nice. Or maybe they just say something simple like, nice to meet you. What do you say back to them? Most people say, nice to meet you too. But there are other ways to say it. What if they say, I really like your shirt? And what do you say? I like your shirt too? You can say that, but there are other ways to say this too. Instead, you can use the word likewise. Yeah, the word likewise means the same back to you. So a person says, nice to meet you, and you can say, likewise. Instead of saying nice to meet you too, or saying likewise, which is also cool, you could say right back at you. Yeah, right back at you. Right back at you.
Good luck. Right back at you.
And this means the same back to you. So they say, nice to meet you, Chris. And I say, right back at you. So now you know a lot of different phrases that native speakers use, and you can start to use them so that you sound more like a native speaker when you speak English. But you know the fastest way to sound like a native speaker and be completely fluent in English? The fastest way is to practice with professional native teachers every day. And that's what you can do in our English Everyday Speaking Practice platform. It's the #1 speaking practice platform on the planet. And I know you're going to love it because it's going to make you fluent faster than anything else. In this video today, we're going to be talking about silent letters. Shh. As you probably know, English has a lot of silent letters. Letters that you don't say. They're in the word when you write them, but you don't say them when you speak. Why? It's probably one of the most difficult things for English learners to understand is when do I say the letters that are in the words and when do I not say them? And in this video today, we're going to be talking about silent consonant letters. There are two types of letters, vowels and consonants. And we're not going to be talking about silent vowels today because they can be silent for all kinds of reasons. For example, the magic E that is at the end of a lot of words in English. It actually changes how other letters are pronounced. So it's not really a silent letter in the way that you're going to see in this video today when we talk about silent consonants. Consonants are letters like C, D, F, T, M, N. And vowels are letters like A, E, I, O, U. Also in this video, we're not going to talk about silent letters where it's just a double letter. We have the word in with one N and in with two N's, and they sound the same. But in writing, we can see that they are different. So that's not what we're going to talk about, but what we are going to talk about are silent consonants that look strange in words that might confuse you when you're trying to pronounce words, and I'm going to show you the correct pronunciation. Get ready because there's a lot of them. So first, let's start with the letter B. We see a silent B at the end of a lot of words, especially when it comes after the letter M, like in the word numb, or dumb, or lamb, or thumb, or climb, or bomb, or comb. Yeah, there's a lot of them. And usually if we add an O at the end of this word, then we start to pronounce the B, like dumb can become Dumbo. Or if we add an O to the end of the word comb, it becomes combo. There are also some words with a silent B before the letter T, like in the word debt, or doubt, or subtle. Now let's go to the letter C. In English, there are a lot of words with a silent letter C after the letter S, like in the word science or scissors. We don't pronounce the C. The S and C together just make an S sound. Or in the word scene or obscene or descend or ascend. You also see this in words like fascinate and muscle. But that's not the only time that C is silent. There are also other words with a silent C, like yacht. In that word, C and H are both silent. Or in the word indict, or in the word czar. Now, there's two different ways to spell the word czar. We can spell it with a CZ or with a TS at the beginning. But if you spell it with the CZ, then the C will be silent. It will just make the Z sound at the beginning. Czar. Now we're moving to the letter D, and this one is a little controversial. Some people might disagree that some of these letters are really silent, like in the word edge or ledge. We don't really stress that D sound. It is practically silent. Like in the word bridge or ridge. We don't say bridge. We say bridge. But there are other words that have silent Ds too, like the word handsome or handkerchief. And probably the most famous word with a silent D in it is the word Wednesday. It is not Wednesday. No, no, no. Your teacher probably told you that the D is silent, but maybe you forgot. Wednesday, not Wednesday. Now, before I continue to the next silent letter, let me know in the chat under this video what the most difficult word with a silent letter is for you to remember. What is a word that you always mispronounce, even though you know that the letter is supposed to be silent? And while you're writing that comment down there, like this video and subscribe to this channel and help us get to 500,000 subscribers so we can keep making these videos for you. Now let's go to the letter F. And actually, there aren't any words that I could think of or find that have a silent F in them. Some people might say that the word fifth has a silent F because usually when we're speaking quickly, we pronounce it fifth. So it sounds like the second F isn't pronounced. But honestly, the pronunciation of this word can be different. It can be fifth with an F or fifth without the F. Now let's go to the letter G. There are a lot of words with silent G's in them. And one reason for this is because a lot of these words came from other languages, especially from Greek. And in other languages, it might be okay to say gn at the beginning of a word, but in English, it's not. That's not part of the phonology of English, the regular sounds of English. So we have words like gnome, which is spelled with a G-N at the beginning, or gnat, or gnarly, or gnaw. And then there are words with G-N in the middle or at the end, and G is silent, like in the word champagne, or cologne, or align, or the word sign, or rain. Not rain like what falls from the sky, but to reign like a king. But maybe those are not the words that you were thinking of when I said that we will talk about words with a silent G, because there are a lot of words that are I-G-H or E-I-G-H, and we don't pronounce G or H. Crazy English. Some of those words are sigh, or high, or night, or bright, or light, or sight, or fight. Yeah, there's a lot of them. And also in the words though and thorough. So now let's move to the letter H. We've already talked about some words like yacht and night that have a silent H in them. But some words have a silent H at the beginning, like the word hour, or heir, or honor, or honest. To make it even more confusing, that's what you want, right? You want it to be really confusing when you're learning something. To make it even more confusing, there's the word herb. In American English, the H is silent. We usually say herb or herbs. But in British English, they usually pronounce the H in this word, herb or herbs. And then we have the question words like which, what, who, where, why. And in all of these words, H is silent. In fact, the letter H is silent in a lot of words that have WH at the beginning, like the color white, or whistle, or to whine like a baby. Then there are some other words that have a silent H, like ghost or rhyme. Oh, and I can't forget the words that have CH, where the H is silent. Usually words that have a CH pronounced like k, without pronouncing the H sound at all, so the H is silent, these words usually come from Greek. If you want to learn more about pronouncing CH sounds in English, then go check out my video on that topic. But there are a lot of these words. For example, echo, or Christmas, or chemistry, or chemical, or anchor, or chaos, or archive, or character, or charisma, or chorus. Now let's move on to the letter J. And to find a word with a silent J in it, I had to think long and hard. I had to relax. There's only really one word I can think of that has a silent J, and that is the word marijuana. That's right. In English, we don't pronounce the J in the word marijuana. Now let's move on to the letter K. Here's another example of Greek words that we took into English, but we forgot to pronounce the first letter. Yeah, maybe in other languages you can say kn at the beginning of a word, but in English you cannot. So when you see KN at the beginning of a word, it's probably pronounced n without a K sound. For example, in the word knife, or knee, or knit, or know, like to know something, or knowledge. Isn't English so much fun? Let's talk about the letter L. I'm sure some people are going to disagree with me here because there are a lot of words where L is questionable, like in the word should, or could, or would. And then we've got words like talk and walk. And a lot of people would argue that we do pronounce the L in these words, but it doesn't sound like we pronounce it. We don't say talk, we say talk. There's also definitely a silent L in the word half or calf. And don't even get me started on the words like folk and yoke. But probably the funniest silent letter L is the name of a fish. The fish is called salmon, and there's an L in the word. And I say it's funny because I hear native speakers pronounce it with an L, and it's a mistake, and everyone knows it's a mistake. At least I think they know it's a mistake. But sometimes they do it. Not usually, but sometimes. But very often I hear non-native speakers, people who are learning English, pronounce the L in this word. They say salmon, and that's not the word. The word is salmon. So that silent L is pretty fishy. Moving on to the letter M. The letter M is silent usually when it comes before the letter N. And this again comes from Greek. So we have a word mnemonic. If you've ever tried to study memory and memorizing things, then you might know what that is, like in a mnemonic device, something that helps you remember something better. But the M at the beginning is silent. It's spelled with M-N at the beginning, but it's pronounced mnemonic. And that's kind of funny because it's M-N. But when we talk about silent N's in words, it's usually M-N, and the N is silent. Like in the word column, or autumn, or hymn, or condemn. Great, we've covered a lot of silent letters already in this video, but there's a lot more. And the next silent letter we're going to talk about is P. I've told you about a lot of words that come from Greek, that come from other languages. And when we pronounce them in English, we don't say all of the letters. So with the letter P, we can really see this, that there's a lot of Greek words that we took into English that start with PN or PS or PT, and we just don't pronounce the P. So we've got words like psychology or pseudonym or psalm. That has a silent L and a silent P. Weird. And then we've got the PN words like pneumonia or pneumatic. And then we've got words with PT at the beginning like pterodactyl. But there are some other words where there are strange silent P's in the middle of the words, like the word raspberry or receipt. Yeah, that one's tricky. A lot of people make mistakes with that one. It's receipt and it's not receipt. Now let's talk about the letter R. Some people think the R is silent, but it's usually not silent in English. Even though in British English, you will hear that people don't really pronounce the R at the ends of words. That doesn't mean it's silent. For example, the word car. I'm American and I pronounce it car with an R at the end. I sound like a pirate. But British English speakers tend not to pronounce the R at the end, so it would sound more like caw. But usually if you see an R, it's pronounced. Now let's talk about S. There are some words that have a silent letter S in them, like the word island or aisle. And then there are words that were taken from French or Latin, and in English, we just don't pronounce the S, like apropos, or debris, or bourgeois. And it's important that we talk about French words in English because the next letter is the letter T, and there tend to be a lot of French words used in English that have a T at the end, but we don't pronounce it in English, like the word ballet, or buffet, or gourmet, or even croquet, or valet, or ricochet. And of course, that cool hat that people wear, a beret. And there are some other French words that we have where we don't pronounce T, like the word rapport or debut. But okay, we're studying English, not French, even though those are words in English too. But let's talk about other words that have a silent T, like soften or fasten or listen, but also words like tsunami. Yeah, tsunami is spelled TS at the beginning, but we don't pronounce the T because in English, we don't usually say ts at the beginning of a word. We also have the word asthma, where we have a T and an H that are both silent. And everybody's favorite word who has a house but doesn't have money, mortgage. Yes, the T is silent. It's not mortgage, it is mortgage, even though mort is connected to death and having a mortgage feels like death. You still don't pronounce the T. The next letter we need to talk about is the letter W. And the letter W is silent all over the place, but especially in words like right, or wrench, or wreath, or wrinkle, or wrap, or wrong, or wrestle, or wreck. But it's not just at the beginning of words. There's also a silent W in the word who, and in the word to, and my favorite, sword. Yes, most English speakers do not pronounce the W in the word sword. So it's not sword, it is sword. Now let's talk about the letter X. And for this, we need to go back to French. And there's really one word that I use that has a silent X in it, and it's the word faux. Faux means fake, and it's not pronounced fox, it's pronounced faux. At least that's how we pronounce it in English. And then we have the letter Z. I can only really think of one word that has a silent Z in it. Yes, I'm American, and this letter is Z. If you're British, then you might think that this letter is Z. But in American English, it's Z. And again, there's a French word that we use in English. It is rendezvous. And it has a Z in the middle, but we don't say it. So now you've learned a lot of words where we don't say the letters, and you shouldn't say those letters. You shouldn't pronounce them when you're speaking those words. But if you want to know what you should say, and if you want to practice saying it, and you want to talk with real, live people and native teachers who will correct your mistakes, then click on the link under this video and go to English Every Day, where you can practice speaking live with native teachers and students from around the world. You will definitely improve your English and become more fluent very, very quickly. And hey, you might even talk with me there. There. Where? Why do so many English words sound exactly the same? Even though when we write them, we see that they're different. And they have different meanings too. Why is it so confusing? For example, words like heir and air. That's right, they're both pronounced exactly the same. Now, I need to remind you that I'm an American English speaker, and my accent is from the United States. Other English speakers might say things a little differently. But first we have air, A-I-R, and that's something that we breathe. Air, it helps us live. But then we have H-E-I-R, and that's also pronounced air. Like, he is the heir to the throne, or he is the king's heir. And the heir is the person who will become the king when the king dies. So maybe the king has a son, And when the king dies, the son will become the new king. The son is the king's heir. Not the king's heir, but the king's heir. The next two words sound exactly the same, but are written differently. Like band, B-A-N-D. This is a music group. It's a group of people who play music together. They play different instruments. You probably have a favorite band. Or sometimes we might call this a music group. But then there's another word that sounds the same. Band. And this is from the verb to ban, which means to make a rule that people cannot do something. For example, maybe in your country, there's a ban on smoking cigarettes in restaurants. It means there's a rule that you cannot do it. And if there is a rule like this, we can say smoking cigarettes in restaurants is banned. Now, learning new words is great, but you have to actually use them. And the fastest way to become fluent in English is to actually speak. That's why I want to invite you to my free fluency masterclass, where I'm going to show you the entire method that you need to follow to become fluent as quickly as possible. Click the link under this video to sign up for the masterclass right now. Now let's talk about two other words that sound the same but are written differently. We have blue, B-L-U-E. And that's a color, like my jacket is blue. But then we have B-L-E-W, and that's also blue. It's the past tense of the verb to blow. And in the past, we say blew, like his soup was hot, so he blew on his soup. The next two words both sound like sell, but one is written with a C, and one is written with an S. When we write it with an S, sell means to give something to another person, and that person gives you money for it. They pay you because you are selling something to them. You make a sale. You sell. But when we write it with a C, it means something completely different. And I can think of three different meanings that this might have. One is in biology. In your body, you have cells. They're a small part that's alive. But the word cell, written with a C, could also be a small room that is locked, like a jail cell or a prison cell. And in today's world, we also have cellular phones. And sometimes we say cell like phone. In fact, the phones that we use today, we can call cell phones. And that's cell with a C, not with an S. If you sell phones with an S, that means that people give you money for phones. But if you're talking about cell phones with a C, then you're just talking about phones. Let's go to the next words. These words are pronounced days. So D-A-Y-S is when we have more than one day, right? Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. These are days of the week. But when we spell it D-A-Z-E, this is a verb, to daze someone. But more frequently, we use it in the passive. We say to be dazed by something, or to be in a daze. And this basically means to be shocked and you can't focus on anything else. For example, after he won the game, he was in a daze. Now, the next two words can be very confusing, and I've heard a lot of people laugh about this. They both sound like die, but D-I-E is when a person is not alive anymore, right? They stop living, they die, and we put them in the ground. But D-Y-E is something completely different. This is to change the color of something using a special type of paint called dye. So dye is a type of coloring or paint that we can use to change the color of something. And we can use the verb to dye something, and this means to change the color. We can say, he dyed his shirt blue, or she dyed her hair pink. So if someone tells you, I dyed my hair, it does not mean that they cut off all of their hair. It means that they changed the color of their hair. And before we go to the next words, real quick, we're trying to get to 500,000 subscribers on this channel, and we really need your help. So click that subscribe button under this video, and I promise you'll love what you get next. Now we need to talk about these two words, which are both pronounced feet. When we have F-E-E-T, then it's a part of your body, right? Like your hands and your feet. But when it's written F-E-A-T, this means a challenge. Usually something that you have completed. So maybe someone says, I just ran 50 miles or however many kilometers that might be. And you say, that's quite a feat. That's quite a challenge that you've overcome or a great accomplishment you've achieved. So usually it's something that is difficult to do that you have done or that you can do. A great feat. We might say landing on the moon is one of humanity's greatest feats. That sounds strange, right? Feats, but it's correct. Next, we have find and find. So when we spell it F-I-N-D, this means when you look for something and oh, there it is, to find something, right? But when we write it F-I-N-E-D, this is from the verb to fine, which means to charge money because a person did something that they were not supposed to do. They broke a rule. For example, we can say if you throw your trash on the ground, then you can get fined. The government can fine you. This means they can tell you that you have to pay some money because you did this thing. So find and find. The next one might surprise you because both of these words are pronounced flower. I think you know what F-L-O-W-E-R spells. That's a flower that you can smell, that you can pick, that you can grow. But flour, spelled F-L-O-U-R, is something that you use when you're baking. Like when you're making bread. It looks like a white powder, and you might need to do something with it before you can make it turn into bread. So flour and flour. You don't put flowers in your flour. I don't know, maybe you do. Let me know in the comments. The next one is kind of funny. It's hey, and also hey. When we write it H-E-Y, this means hi or hello. But when we write H-A-Y, this is something that's like grass that horses eat. And they both sound exactly the same. That's confusing, right? So the next time you're walking down the street and someone says, hey, you can think, is he talking about horse food? That's probably not what they're talking about. But sometimes native speakers will make a joke. And when you say hey, they will say, hay is for horses because of hay and hey. Yay! Now let's go to the next two words, which are both pronounced new. We have N-E-W, which means not old, new. But then we also have K-N-E-W. And this is the past tense of the verb to know. I know it. I knew it. If you knew it, why didn't you say it? But remember, when you want to tell someone that you know what they are talking about and you understand what they're saying, you should say, I know, not I knew. Because if it's in the past, it means it's finished. So you usually are going to say, I know what you're talking about, or I know that place, or I already know that. We don't need to say, I knew that. So new and new. Next, let's talk about mail. M-A-I-L. This is something that someone sends you, like a letter in an envelope. It's delivered to you. Maybe you have a mailbox where someone puts the mail. Yes, we're talking about the post, the mail. You've got mail. But then we also have male. M-A-L-E. And this is not female. This is part of biology. There are men and there are women. And we're not going to talk about biology today, but usually a man is male and a woman is female. And that's all I'm going to say about that because I don't want to get hate mail. So I'm wishing everybody peace. And that's the next word. Peace. Peace, or which one is which? So if we write it P-E-A-C-E, then that's peace. Like we're not fighting, we're not arguing, we're not at war, we are at peace. But if we write it P-I-E-C-E, then this means a part of something. It's not all of it, it's just a piece of it. Let me give you a piece of advice. Moving on to the next words, pear and pear. P-E-A-R is a type of fruit. Yummy. P-A-I-R is two. Now, a lot of people get confused with the words couple and pair because they both mean two. Well, when we talk about people and we say a couple, this means boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife, partner and partner. This is what they're talking about. A couple, if we're talking about people, is a romantic relationship. But when we use the word pair, it doesn't mean that. And we can say something like a new pair of shoes. But we would say Mike and Sarah are a couple. The confusing part is that you can also say he has a couple of shoes. So what's the difference between a couple of shoes and a pair of shoes? Well, a pair of shoes are two shoes that go together. You have the left foot and the right foot, but a couple of shoes just tells us that there's two shoes. Now let's go to the next word. Actually, you know what? More words isn't going to make you fluent. What's really going to make you fluent is practicing speaking regularly. And I'm going to tell you all about the fastest method to become fluent in my free fluency masterclass. Click the link under this video to register for the masterclass right now. The next two words are both pronounced poor. P-O-O-R means not rich. A person who does not have a lot of money is poor. But then we have another word too. It's P-O-U-R, and this is a verb, to pour something. It's like when you have water in a cup and you can pour the water into another cup, or you can pour the water in the sink. So if you have a container with liquid, like water, then you can pour that liquid. Our next two words are both pronounced red. R-E-D is a color. If you're really tired, your eyes might be red. But R-E-A-D is also pronounced red. Now you might be saying, Chris, what are you talking about? I thought you were a teacher. How can you say that R-E-A-D is pronounced red? Everybody knows it's pronounced read. To read a book. Yes and yes. So to read a book is in the present, but when we say this in the past, we pronounce it read. It's spelled the same, it has the same letters, but it's pronounced differently. Hey, I didn't make English, I'm just helping you understand it. So I read a book, present tense, but yesterday I read a book, pronounced exactly the same as the color red. I know you love English. But now let's talk about right and right. R-I-G-H-T. This has two main meanings. First, we can go left or we can go right. This is my right hand, but on your screen, you might see it on the left. But when we say right and spell it W-R-I-T-E, this is something that we do with a pencil or a pen. We can write words. We can write a letter. So right and right. Right. All right, let's go to the last words. And these ones are maybe the most surprising. Actually, a lot of native speakers still make mistakes with these words and don't really understand the difference because they sound exactly the same, but they are different, and that's important. And all three of these words are pronounced there. There, there, there. First, we have T-H-E-R-E. Not here, there. It's a location. Hello? Hello? Are you there? Then we have T-H-E-I-R. And this means that something belongs to them. They have a house. It is their house. They have a car. It is their car. And then the last one is T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E. And the apostrophe tells us that it's just replacing a letter. And we see this apostrophe and we know that this is two words put together. They are. So we can say they are home, they're home. They are happy to meet you, they're happy to meet you. They all sound the same, and that's confusing. But now you know what they mean, and you know the difference. So the next time you hear it, you don't have to be confused. If this video was useful, press like, press subscribe, and leave a comment down below and tell me what you liked. Also, leave a comment and tell me what you want the next video to be about. We keep making more videos for you. And if you want the fastest way to become fluent in English, sign up for my free Fluency Masterclass by clicking the link under this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.